Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and there's no other place I'd rather be. Before we continue with our teachings, because make no mistake, if there was ever a time to learn Torah, it's now, because really what else are we going to do? I was contemplating whether or not I should speak about what's happening, and I understand a lot of people are not informed, ill-informed, misinformed, whatever. But let me tell you what the news is saying, and let me tell you what's really happening. Also, I can't speak openly over here. You understand? So I hope you pick up what I'm putting down. So if you guys listened to my last teaching, or the last two teachings actually, before Yom Kippur, did you see how I finished the video over there? I told you. I warned you as best I could. Anyway, we knew that something was coming after Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was the date that everything was going to change. Yom Kippur specifically of 2023. We've been saying this for several years now, openly here. In any case, Israel received plenty of warnings of there's going to be terror attacks, We're on super high alert over here in Jerusalem for Rosh Hashanah, the Rosh Hashanah prayers. And we actually had in the shuls that we daven in, which is basically a school, you have the Sephardi minyan and the Ashkenaz minyan, we had 6 soldiers coming to defend us, including everybody who had firearms within the shuls, because there was such a high alert. Nothing happened on Rosh Hashanah. And then over the course of the 10 days of repentance, we're like, okay, super high alert. Nothing happened. Then we go into Yom Kippur and nothing happened. Or did it? So if you guys are not aware of what happened on Yom Kippur, I have to explain this to you because this is absolutely relevant. Yom Kippur in Tel Aviv, and everything I'm saying, you could go to YouTube and you could find these things. It's all there. I'm not making any of these things up. Obviously, no phones, no tech on Yom Kippur, of course. But after the Chag, when we were seeing, if World War III had begun, we saw pretty much the catalyst for it. In Tel Aviv, the city that prides itself on being called the gay capital of the Middle East, they had there are some Orthodox people living there, and they wanted to arrange a public prayer on the holiest day of the year in Dizengoff Square, which is more like a circle, but it's called Kikar. It's Dizengoff Square. And they did it last year, also during Tisha B'Av. They would sit down and read Lamentations over there. It's actually very nice. And not only Orthodox, the Orthodox are coming. The Orthodox are a minority. You have primarily secular Jews who are, Jews after all. They said, hey, I want to get in on this. Of course, this is my day too. Sure, it's open for everybody. It's primarily for them. So on Yom Kippur, which is the Holy of Holies, again, Shabbat is called Kodesh. Yom Kippur is called Kodesh Kodashim. It is the only day that postpones, or doesn't postpone, but overrides Shabbat. Because on Shabbat, because it's a holy day, you're not allowed to fast. But if Yom Kippur falls on Shabbat, you fast because it is Holy of Holies. It is the one day of the year that the Satan, as we know, as we've learned, does not have a say. We saw videos taken from the night of Yom Kippur and the next night of Yom Kippur. So when they started with Kol Nidrei, when the gates of heaven are opening, and then finally the following night, right before the end of the fast, during Ne'ilah, lock, right? Na'al, we discussed the word, man'ul, a lock, right before the gates of heaven are closed. So you had hundreds of Jews praying, both Orthodox and secular. And within the crowd, within the gathering of those who prayed, you had dozens, if not hundreds, of other individuals. Now, I'm not pointing my finger at saying they are secular. It's not about that, because what this group was doing, they were doing it to everybody, both Orthodox and secular. You had these groups who were coming within those who were praying on the holiest day, and they were with bullhorns, screaming in their ears, pushing them. They got violent. People came. My brother-in-law was there. He said people came with tasers to tase those that were praying. They were handing out to each other. They were drinking beer and whiskey on Yom Kippur in front of them while yelling at them, busha, busha, shame, shame. We have videos of this saying, get out of here. I hate Jews. All y'all get out of here. These are Jews saying this to other Jews, right? Things you cannot possibly imagine, things that you would I couldn't believe that I actually saw something like this. On this day, venomous hatred. Now, what did we learn about the Erev Rav? One thing that the Erev Rav have in common is that they have venomous hatred. This is already written. We read in the Zohar 2,000 years ago. Venomous hatred towards their fellow Jews. And again, I'm not saying all secular Jews. I'm saying this group of people. This group of people, there's a lot of them, okay? But they were doing this to everyone who came to pray. You had women over there who were touching men's tzitzit, trying to get a rise out of them. Crazy scenes. Something that I never thought I would ever see. If you told my grandparents 70 years ago after they got out of the Holocaust, this would happen in Israel, be like, you're crazy. No way, of course. We're in hell. This would never happen. And yet it did. That was what we were talking about. Apparently it was, because something like this never should be. But still, no terror attack. But that does not mean that an attack is not coming, particularly based on that. I mean, it's a long time coming, but that was the final straw. Final straw. In any case, a few days later, it's Sukkot, right? Okay, no terror, high alert, high alert. Sukkot comes, no terror attack. Sukkot goes, no terror attack. Then finally, on the morning of Simchat Torah, what is Simchat Torah? I've done teachings on this, Shmini Atzeret Simchat Torah, for the first 7 days of Sukkot. Israel gives 70 bulls. We offer 70 bulls for an atonement for the nations, because it is also our job to pray for the 70 nations, because the 70 nations exist because of us. So we give the 70 bulls. But on the 8th day, that is the holiday of, we don't commemorate something that happened. It's the only chag that we commemorate something that will be. That is the yichud, the unification between HaKadosh Baruch Hu, between the Holy One, blessed be He, and His people Israel. That's what that is. That is uninterrupted, without the nations, without anybody. And what do we do on this day? We place the Torah in the center, and we also dance around with the Torah. So in other words, we're encircling and dancing around. It's called simcha, happiness, joyful, of the Torah. Simchat Torah. Thank you, God, for giving us the Torah. So what happens? And Arena and I, we were not in Jerusalem. We go to my parents' place in Ra'anana. Ra'anana is in the center. It's 20 minutes north of Tel Aviv. And the reason I wanted to go there is specifically, if you've seen the video that I did about my synagogue growing up, the end is at the beginning, I think. It's about, the death of Moses. You'll see it's a round synagogue with a bima in the middle. And I remember as a kid, we just used to circle. Well, it was counterclockwise. Circling and so much fun. I said, you want to really do a Simchat Torah? Because here again, we're davening in a school. It's not ideal. So we went there. So we daven and we sing and we dance and we rejoice that God gave us the Torah, and we rejoice for the 8th, for what is to come. 8th is above perfection. 8th is only reserved for Israel. We get woken up at 6:30 in the morning by a siren. What's going on? We didn't hear any boom or anything like that. Okay, we go to synagogue. In synagogue, people are starting to talk, whisper, did you hear? Did you hear? Did you hear? What did we hear? Every person that kept on coming in heard more and more and more news. To the point where more people started coming, and they said, listen, people are getting drafted. Soldiers are getting drafted. Everything I'm telling you right now, this is public knowledge, okay? You know these things. This is what they're reporting on in the news. What happened? They broke through the fence in the Gaza border. They came into the town of Sderot, which is, let's say, the main town in that area. They took over the police station. They managed to take over 7 yeshuvim, 7 settlements, holding them captive. Who are they? Hundreds of Hamas. Hundreds. Killing hundreds in the process. Right now, the death toll is at 700 and rising. Wounded, 2,400 and rising. Over 150 kidnapped and rising. Why? Because not everybody is accounted for, and they're finding bodies all the time. They're finding people hiding. You understand? Craziness is ensuing, and no one really knows what's going on. So they say. So that's what happened. And since then, right now, it's, what day is it today? Is it Tuesday today? I think it's Tuesday today. Forgive me if this isn't all kind of official. I decided to do this last minute. Oh, it's Monday. We're on Monday. Okay, a lot has happened. So in any case, Motzei Shabbat comes. We're driving back to Ra'anana. The roads were empty because people are terrified. We're at war. Okay, no problem. We get to Jerusalem. And then also within the last day, especially now, right before I was about to start the filming, there was a siren over here in Jerusalem, and they hit some of the towns, Beitar Illit, which is right outside of Jerusalem, causing damage. I don't think anybody was hurt, but again, you look online, you see, I mean, the streets look like a war zone. So there's a lot going on here right now. The streets in Jerusalem are empty. People are terrified. People don't know what's going on. My family members have been called up, going to various different places. I'm not going to say where. But I mean, and again, it's no secret that, okay, so the threat came from Gaza. That's where Hamas is. We got to go into Gaza and we got to take out Hamas and, show them once and for all. So this is what everybody knows. The other thing that everybody knows is what people aren't making the connection here. Iran and Hamas. Iran just declared that they were the ones that told Hamas to move forward with this plan that they were planning for years. But Hamas is sponsored by Iran. 3 days ago, 3 days before the attack, American President Joe Biden gave Iran $6 billion. Do you see the connection? I certainly hope so. Okay. In any case, America's basic. See what I'm saying? I can't say it openly, but let's connect these dots now, shall we? Okay, so this is what you know. Here's a question that I have. I know that Israel is one of the most advanced high-tech countries in the world, especially our military. If a bird, I'm not joking, if a bird lands on the fence between Israel and Gaza, everybody knows about it and all the forces come and converge within a matter of seconds, not even minutes, seconds, okay? Explain to me how hundreds of Hamas terrorists crossed our border, knocked down the fences, and were just rolling in with vehicles, not only from land, also from the sea, and also by air. We'll talk about that in a second. And it took over 6 hours for any kind of governmental military response. The government insisted on having women serve on the front lines, and so 31 female soldiers were murdered and the rest were taken captive. What do you think they're going to do to them? Not only did they take all these females captive, they took plenty of soldiers captive. Whoever were there, they just ran over them like it was nothing. They took grandmothers captive. They had pictures, videos, images. You see an 85-year-old grandma sitting over there with all these Hamas guys on there. They took families, women and children, elderly women. They're taking them to the streets of Gaza. And again, all this is on the internet. They're dragging them out in the streets of Gaza naked. They're beating them. All this is happening right now. Sponsored by Iran, subsidized by the US. Here we go. So now, if a bird lands on the fence and we're there in seconds, you want to tell me how it happened that several hundred of them crossed and what happened? Oops. No. Okay. That doesn't make sense. So this is what they're not telling you. There is no way that we didn't know this. When I say we, I mean the government. But we also know this is the same government that forcefully tried to push the magic cure on everybody. You think this isn't related? Believe me, it is. Very much so. In any case, right now, like we said, we're mobilizing and we're going to be going into Gaza, public knowledge. But we're also waiting for what's coming from the north, right? Hezbollah's in the north. Hamas is small time compared to Hezbollah. This is an opportunity for them. Let's put it like that. Okay, so I said all these things, and of course, my heart breaks for my brothers and sisters, all the people who died. Again, it's crazy what is going on. But now let's take a look at this for a moment from a godly lens, if you will, biblical lens. On this day of Simchat Torah, which is a gift, which is a day separate from all the days, where Jews are supposed to be dancing with the Torah, just please hear me out, okay? These things need to be said. And I want you to YouTube this as well. There was a nature festival close to Gaza in Israel. What is the name? It's a rave, okay? If you've ever been to a rave, whole bunch of unnecessary trance music, people dancing, barely clothed. Okay, think of like Burning Man, okay? Burning Man, or what's the other one? The Coachella? Anyway, people are dancing on drugs in the desert, right? Only this rave, and again, I want you to YouTube this, okay? The nature party in Israel, you'll find it. You'll see this video, and all these are Israelis dancing to, right? Not wearing much clothing. And what are they all dancing around? You can't make this stuff up. A massive, I think it was either a Buddhist or an Indian idol, massive silver statue sitting there with its legs crossed. Why? And yet that's what's happening. And they film this, people film this, and in the background, when you see all these Jews who should be dancing with the Torah in synagogue, are dancing on drugs around built statues of silver. You see what I'm saying? In the back, you see how they crossed by air. They were paragliding with like the little turbines on their back with the parachutes. You see death from above. And when they landed there, it was fish in a barrel. Again, I'm not making this stuff up. This happened. They killed hundreds, bodies piled all over the place. It said that the reason the numbers jumped up from, let's say, 2 to 3 to 400 to then to 700 because they found 260 dead corpses on the sides of the road. And also afterwards, another 240 people were alive. They found them hiding in the ditch of a river over there. It was complete chaos. And then they just took them back to Gaza. No army stopping them, no nothing. Biblically speaking, what happens? Now, again, I'm not being insensitive. God forbid. But Lord have mercy. We are just reading it right now. We just read the book of Deuteronomy. What are we doing with idols on the day where we should be dancing with the Torah? Do you see this? So, craziness. So what are we in right now? We understand what we're in right now. This is pretty much the basis of our teaching over the last few years, especially Acharit Kereshit. This is what we call Haberur Ha'acharon, like I said, like I've been teaching last week. This is where we're seeing who is standing where. Okay? Who is standing where? I don't know the Cheshbon Nefesh, the soul, the everybody's cheshbon, everybody's judgment with God. I don't know that, and I'm not the one to judge. But you don't have to be an idiot to understand that when you dance around idols, when you should be dancing with the Torah, it's not a good look, especially not for Israel. So that's that. And I don't know what else to say right now. I got to be honest with you also. I'm not worried. I'm not nervous. I'm surprisingly I'm upset because it's like people don't see that who are you trusting right now? None of this is an accident. Of course we knew. This is on purpose. But people don't see this. And read the book of Daniel, right? It says that the fools will not see this, but those that are actually searching, they will see this. The fools will refuse to turn away. I've already spoken to certain people after this happened, and they refuse to see any kind of connections, like maybe it's time to do tshuva. Well, are you crazy? What? It's time's up. Here we are. This is the situation right now. What has happened right now has not happened since the establishment of the state of Israel. Hasn't happened. Anyway, let's say some Tehillim, okay, for the people and for Israel. And beyond that, you want to know what's coming? Just read about it. Psalms 121, שיר למעלות, אשא עיני אל ההרים מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם אדוני עושה שמיים וארץ. אל יתן למוט רגליך, אל ינום שומריך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל. אדוני שומריך, אדוני צילך על יד ימיניך, יומם השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם. And for all those wounded, for all those killed, for all those captured, we say Psalms 130. שיר המעלות ממעמקים קראתיך אדוני, אדוני שמע בקולי, תהיינה אוזניך קשובות לקול תחנוני. אם עוונות תשמור אדוני מי יעמוד, כי עמך סליחה למען תברא. קיוויתי אדוני כבתה נפשי, ולדברו הוכלתי, נפשי לאדוני משומרים לבוקר, שומרים לבוקר. יחל ישראל אל אדוני, כי אם אדוני החסד והרבה עמו עדות, והוא יפדה את ישראל מכל עוונותיו. And excellent for protection, Psalms 91. Because this is actually what is happening right now. 10,000 or 1,000 to your left and 10,000 to your right, but it won't touch you. This is precision accuracy right now. God is removing tzaddikim from this world, and he's removing reshaim, the wicked, from this world, and specifically the wicked from Israel. Like I said, I don't know who's who. There are plenty of people that they look like they're tzaddikim, but they're not. And there are plenty of people that look like they might be reshaim, but they're not. But we know that both the tzaddikim and the reshaim are being removed because the reshaim, there's no saving them, meaning God sees, okay, your time is up. As for the tzaddikim, you don't need to be here and suffer for what is about to take place. Everybody else, these are the Benonim, and we hope that, and we have to count ourselves amongst the Benonim, hopefully, that we are not wicked, but hey, I'm righteous, I'm good. You understand? So we have to count ourselves in the middle. Like those, this is what the 10 days of repentance are for Israel. So this is excellent for protection. Psalms 91. יושב בסתר עליון בצל שדי תלונה, נאמר לאדוני מחסי ומצדותי אלוהי אפתח בו, כי הוא יצילך מפח רכוש מדבר אבות, בעברתו אסח לך, ותחת כנפיו תחסה, צינה וסוחרה מיתו, לא תירא מפחד לילה מחצי יומם, מדבר באופן יהלוך מקדי ושעות צהריים, יפול מצדך 1,000 ורבבה, מימינך אליך לא יגש, רק בעיניך תביט ושלמת רשעים תראה, כי אתה אדוני מחסי עליון שמת מעונך, לא תמונה אליך רעה ונגע לא יקרב בו עליך. כי מלאכה וצווה לך לשמורך בכל דרכיך, על כפיים יסעונך פן תיגוף באבן רגליך, על שחל ופתן תדרוך תרמוס כפיר ותנין, כי בי חשק ואפלתהו אשגהו כי ידע שמי. יקראני וענהו עמו אנוכי בצרה, אכלצהו ואכבדהו. אורך ימים אשביעהו ואראהו בישועתי, אורך ימים אשביעהו ואראהו בישועתי. Okay, so like I started to say before, I am surprisingly calm, although it's not surprising. I truly believe with every fiber of my being, God is in control of all things. And one thing that lowers our vibration is fear. And I refuse. I absolutely refuse. We don't know when it's our time to go. This is everything we've been teaching, right? Because you don't know. That's why we have to do tshuva every day, because we don't know when it's our time. But we trust God that everything that happens is for our own benefit. So if he takes us, if he keeps us, it's because it is best for us. And that's it. Rabbi Nachman said, Kol olam kulo gesher tzar meod. The entire world is like walking on a thin bridge, meaning on a thin bridge, a thin high bridge without any railings on the side. Va'ikar, but the main thing is, lo lefached klal, do not be afraid at all. That is the main thing. Why? Sorry, just looking for updates. Hey, we might hear another siren while this is going. Who knows? Why should we not be afraid? Because if we walk on the straight and narrow path, because if we look to the side from so high up, we could get dizzy, right? If there's a banister next to a balcony, we'll sometimes even lean over because we trust that banister. But really, there's no banisters in this world. So if we look to the side, we might fall down out of, we might get dizzy, we might fall, we might be afraid, we might not move. But if we move forward with our eyes on God, we're good. Lo lefached klal. And this is where we are at right now. God sees each and every one of us. And I urge you all to find that peace wherever you are. We don't know exactly what is going to come next. We have a general idea, obviously, because he gave us the prophecy, and the prophecy is unfolding before our eyes. But like I said before, the one thing, the power that we have is a Torah. And so it's a motorcycle. There is nothing that is a greater protection for Israel than learning Torah. There is nothing that can sweeten the judgments upon Israel than learning Torah. So that's exactly what we're going to do. As for next week's teaching, I don't know if it's going to happen because my producer might not be available, but if there's any relevant updates, I'll see what I can do as far as giving you a teaching, giving you an update. Okay. If there's any questions, please just email me. Okay. The tent of Abraham @gmail.com. It's beneath the thing, always has been. If there are any questions, any concerns, okay, that's why I'm here. Other than that, Israel is pretty much shut down. We are at war, and we are at war with so much more than Hamas. So let us begin. We continue with Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, chapter 38g. This is called The Ban is the Oath. Hallelujah to Adonai kol goyim, shabechu kol haomim, ki gavar elenu chasdo, ve'emet Adonai leolam. Hallelujah. So here we're going to cover the pact, right? We've been speaking about the pact, not specifically the one that the brothers made with God to keep the whereabouts of Joseph hidden from his father, but the pact in general. What is this pact? Since there are so many English translations for this single word, we might have to change the meaning for this class, but I assure you, they all come back to the same Hebrew word. So the word in Hebrew that we discussed, it's called cherem, which poorly translates as monopoly. If you Google translate cherem, it's monopoly. But if we use the words that we used in previous class, none of it would make sense, hence the word change, okay? And so we'll get into it. In this class, the most relevant translation for the word cherem will use ban, okay? It could be a pact, but it's a ban specifically, like our title. Rabbi Akiva says, the ban is the oath, and the oath is the ban. HaCherem hu hashvu'ah, ve'hashvu'ah hu hacherem. Anyone who breaks the ban, it is as if he had broken the oath. And anyone who knows the matter and does not disclose it, the ban comes upon him. It consumes him and his wood and stones, as said in Zechariah 5:4, I have brought it forth, says the Lord of hosts, and it shall come into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that swears in my name falsely, and it shall lodge in the midst of his house and destroy him and his wood and his stones. Velena betoch beito vechilto et etzav et avanav. Okay. What does this mean? Anyone who knows the matter and does not disclose it, the ban comes upon him. What does this mean? For instance, if there's, let's say, a kosher butcher or a kosher restaurant that it was found out, and there have been plenty in Israel also, found out that they sold non-kosher meat, thereby causing any Jew that comes and eats from that place to transgress the words of the Torah. Even if it's not your fault, there's a reason God says, don't eat from these things, as in, it is important what goes into your mouth, as well as what comes out of your mouth, but God said, you shall be holy, for I am holy, therefore don't eat these things. Why? Because when we as Jews, this is another thing, by the way. I'll explain this and I'll get into that. All these things are coming up. Please just go with me on this, okay? That is not scripted. Neither was the beginning part. When we eat non-kosher things, we become tameh. We become impure. And what does this mean for us as Jews? Since we have a specific prohibition to eat kosher, our spiritual levels are lowered and lowered and lowered and lowered to the point where they're capped, where we cannot receive anything. We cannot, in Kabbalah, there's no Kabbalah. Kabbalah means to receive. Our receptacles are down. They are dulled. What happened a week ago? The chief Sephardi rabbi said something, because the country was up in arms after what happened in Yom Kippur. He said that those that eat non-kosher, it makes their brains dumb. Now, when my secular friends saw this, they're like, oh, this is how this rabbi speaks. It's not a very, it's not a very welcoming thing. I had to explain it. I'm like, okay, you guys, I hope you understand, right? So this is how I had to explain. There's a reason that God tells us to eat this and not to eat that, because if you eat this, it literally dumbs you down. Doesn't mean that you're stupid or world stupid, but spiritually dumb, that's what that means. And when you are spiritually dumb, okay, please understand what I'm saying. When you're spiritually dumb, you are less open to receiving from God. You are more into matters of this world. Okay, all this makes sense. So a butcher or a restaurant who sells non-kosher meat and Jews go and eat in there, the town will put a cherem upon them or upon the individual that sold this meat, right? They place a ban. Nobody goes in here. We're done until you do tshuva and change your whole thing and whatnot, right? They're shunned by the community. The community leaders make this decision. The entire community must abide by this ban, especially way back in the days when they had smaller towns, right? So now let's say a Jew from out of town comes and he's about to go into this place that is still open, that the guy still didn't do tshuva, and he's selling non-kosher meat. If anyone sees a Jew go into this place that is masquerading as a kosher place and does not inform him saying this guy sells non-kosher meat, we put a ban on him. Whoever does not warn these individuals, guess what? He now partakes in the sin. Wow. Okay, so interesting enough, this is like the watchman on the wall. The same thing. If you see your enemies coming and you don't warn your brother, you don't blow the shofar, their death is on your hands, right? Their blood is on your hands, damo berosho, right? But if you warn him and he doesn't do anything, it's on him. This is also what we're trying to tell people. And when we have been over the last 2 years, we've been laughed at, ridiculed. Doesn't mean we're not trying, right? But okay, right now we're getting to that point where nothing matters and the chips have already fallen. And now we're about to see what's going to play out. So, the transgressing what command as far as kosher? Leviticus 19:4, you shall not place a stumbling block before a blind person. So if somebody goes to eat something and he thinks it's kosher but it's not, you are placing a block before a blind person because he literally cannot see what he's about to go into. Okay, and you shall fear your God, I am the Lord. And this is in Leviticus at the end after all the kosher laws. You see how this is relevant. Okay. But also all the kosher laws that are about to be broken by this Jew will fall upon the head of he who didn't warn him. This is also relevant to individuals with crooked business practices. If you allow your fellow to engage with them without a warning, you are guilty, right? You know a guy's a crook. Like, hey, I think I'm going to go do business with that. I'm about to close this. If you say, dude, this guy's a liar, he's a cheat, he's a thief, he did this to this person and this to that person, you have to warn that person. If you don't warn that person, and that person is then gonna, get done over by that guy, they'll look to you like, why didn't you tell me? Oh, I didn't want to speak Lashon Hara. That's not Lashon Hara. Same thing. How many times I warn people about going to any of where I've been with all these fakers out there. Yes, and I've consulted with plenty of legitimate rabbis. You must warn of people like this, because then if they go in, they get caught up in that cult, in that web of lies. And then guess what? You're guilty for not warning them. Anybody that'll ask me, I'll warn them. Hands down, I'll do it to their face. Let us continue. Rabbi Akiva continues. You should know how great was the power of the ban. Come and see from Joshua ben Nun, who put a ban on Jericho and the city and everyone in it. They burnt with fire. Do we know the story? The reason Jericho was banned and every last man, woman, and child killed was because they ridiculed and cursed God and Israel for 7 days. They were sitting there in their very thick, sturdy walls. Jericho is also known to be, I think, the oldest city. So let's read a few verses from Joshua 6, because we're going to go into the details, but I'm going to be filling in the blanks over there. Okay? So Joshua 6, notice the terrible and ever-changing meaning of the word cherem. V'haita ha'ir cherem, hi v'kol asher ba'ala Hashem. And the city shall be devoted. That's how they translate cherem. Not ban, now it's devoted. Okay, devoted. It and all that is in it to the Lord. Okay, so that's that. And then verse 18, Verak atem shimru min hacherem pen tacharimu, also cherem, velakachtem min hacherem vesamtem et machane Yisrael lecherem veakartem oto. Wow. So we got 4 in here. And only you keep yourselves from the devoted thing, lest you make yourselves condemned when you take of the devoted thing and make the camp of Israel a ruin and trouble it. So for one word over here, which is the same thing in Hebrew, you have devoted thing, condemned, and ruin in English. Again, my friends, we need the Hebrew, okay? Otherwise, all is lost. It's okay though. Everybody's going to speak Hebrew anyway. וכל כסף וזהב כלי נחושת וברזל קודש הוא להשם אוצר השם יבוא. And all the silver and gold and the vessels of copper and iron are consecrated to the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. Why am I reading this? We know. Okay. So devoted thing, condemned, ruin. You see the point of the ever-changing translation of the word. But wait, it's not over yet. Joshua 7:1. וימעלו בני ישראל מעל בחרם, ויקח אחן בן כרמי בן זבדי בן זרח למטה יהודה מן החרם, ויחרב השם בבני ישראל. And the children of Israel committed a trespass in the consecrated thing, for Achan the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took of the consecrated thing, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against the children of Israel. So now it's a consecrated thing. Whatever. Back to the ban. You should know, says our text, how great was the power of the ban. Come and see from Joshua ben Nun, who put a ban on Jericho, and the city and everyone in it burned with fire. As Achan ben Carmi ben Zerach saw the teraphim. This is what Rabbi Akiva says over here. What are teraphim? And where have we heard this word before? When Rachel stole her father Lavan's idols, they were called teraphim, right? But teraphim are specifically a specific kind of idol, right? I said, I think, even how it's done. They take a head, they shrink the head, they put in oil and in salt, and they do all these things, meaning they decapitate a firstborn, okay? All witchcraft. And they shrink the heads, and then they place the heads inside a hole in the wall, and then they place a golden tongue inside its mouth, and they worship it, and then it tells them that that shrunken head with the golden tongue speaks, and there's incantations engraved on the tongue, and it speaks and it tells them the future. That's why she stole it from her father, because this way he wouldn't know. It's a GPS tracker. Where's Jacob? Jacob is on the hill of Gilead. Okay, well, we're going there. She did it to protect Jacob, right? Okay. So Achan saw the golden tongue within the teraphim, right? None of the gold or silver, nothing was to be taken over there. He had the gold and silver is to God. Joshua said it, though everybody said amen, good to go. So Achan saw the golden tongue within the teraphim and the silver that was offered to it. In other words, it was a whole shrine with silver in front of it, and the majesty that was spread before it, carpets and incense and flowers and who knows what other, jeweled goblets and whatnot, and the golden tongue in its mouth. And he coveted these in his heart. And he took them and buried them in his tent. The Radal says that when he found out, he tried to cover from the members of his household by saying that it was buried in a section that they didn't enter, meaning they didn't know about. This was, you'll see, but he was lying, but he was trying to cover for his family. However, God is perfectly just and sees all, and they all knew what had been buried over there, and so they were punished along with him. If you see something, say something, right? Okay. Going back to what Rabbi Akiva said in the beginning, and anyone who knows the matter and does not disclose it, the ban comes upon him. And because of his transgression, 36 tzaddikim had died, as said in Joshua 7:5. And the men of Ai smote of them about 36 men, and they chased them from before the gate of Cherubim, and smote them in the descent, and the hearts of the people melted and became as water. Now again, I'm sure I've been through this. Actually, I have been through this. Okay. So over the last few weeks, specifically when discussing how to attain Ruach HaKodesh, the real one, yes? Because I can promise you by default, there's nothing holy that comes upon a Jew who does not strictly live according to the Torah, not even to mention an idolatrous Gentile. There are people today, they call it tikshu, that they're tikshu, litkasher is to call, meaning to connect. They call themselves prophets. They're not prophets, and they belittle the prophets by saying that they are prophets just like them. It's not like that. The messages that they receive are a mixed message between there's good and there's evil in there. Because I know these people, they don't live according to the Torah. But like I said before, even from Gentiles from the nations, they also receive things and they happen, but not everything happens. And if you don't live according to the Torah, whether you're a Jew or a Gentile, the things that you receive are not coming from a holy place. They are coming from a divine place, but not necessarily divine meaning angels, but there are also positive angels and negative angels, meaning you're receiving a mixed bag. And I've heard some of the things that these people have said, and some of their things were on point, where other things they could not have been, they couldn't have been further away. And when someone who calls themselves a prophet says things and they don't happen, then they're called a false prophet. Because a true prophet, everything he says comes into fruition. Every last thing. There isn't 50-50. With these guys, 50-50 we'll say. False prophets, in any case. So you can hear things for sure, but it comes, like we said, from an unholy place. In every generation, like we said, from the time Israel was established as a nation, it was always held up by no less than 36 righteous. Now, in Joshua, it doesn't say that 36 tzaddikim fell. It says that 36 fell, but we already understand the number 36 and what that means. All right. So why was the loss of only 36 men from Israel in a battle? Okay, they went to a battle, they went to a war. Hundreds, thousands of people die in war. It's war, right? 36 died. How could it be so earth-shattering that Joshua tore his robes and fell on his face before God? As we have discussed many times, whenever Israel went to war in the wilderness against warrior nations that were significantly larger and physically stronger than they, not a single man from Israel fell. Not one. Nobody. These guys that went to war, they were not mighty warriors or soldiers. These guys were slaves. But because of the Torah that they learned, they were all tzaddikim, righteous. They were rabbis. Rabbis are not big, strong fighter dudes. Like we said, the Hasmoneans, these were elderly priests. How could they possibly defeat the greatest army, the Greek army, the greatest army of their time? Impossible. No, these were tzaddikim, and the Midrash says that they held on to the swords, and the swords did the fighting for them. Everything. God does this, but again, You are the vessel through which he works. Remember that. That's why, specifically going back to the kosher and all the mitzvot, this is our vessel to fill. If we keep it kosher, everything is good. If we keep it unkosher, meaning unholy, it's open season. So coming right off a tremendous, miraculous victory in Jericho, the only way Israel could have had a casualty is if they were not united in every single way. And that's another thing, by the way. Again, Yom Kippur, what happened here in Israel? You saw such a division. Oh, and something else I wanted to tell you right now. Very interesting. All these protests, right? Because up until a week ago, we were divided, like right down the middle. You had primarily, actually only, the secular left who were complaining against the government, against the judicial reform, and you had the Orthodox who were saying, no, we want the judicial reform. If you guys, I don't even remember if I discussed it. Really quick, the courts here who were the Supreme Court judges here in Israel, who are only elected by other Supreme Court justices, they can determine whether a law that an elected official passes will go into play or not. In other words, you go out and vote. Again, the whole thing is a joke, but look how the corruption within the corruption is so laughable that no one sees it. You go out, you vote, you elect your official, then you have your majority, you have your Knesset, you have the parliament, you have the government. The government passes a law based on the majority that voted for them. Great. The Supreme Court comes and says, nah, we're not going to do that. Now, it wouldn't have been a problem except that they are extremely on the left, and all the judgments that they have ruled against Israel are detrimental to Israelis and very good for the Arabs. You see what's going on. So the government said, this is a dictatorship. No one elected you. You keep electing yourselves, right? And in the States, it doesn't work that way, right? The elected officials bring in, the president chooses who the next Supreme Court justice is going to be, so there can be a balance of Republicans and Democrats, right? Now everybody think of extreme liberal left over there, and this is how our country is run, and this is why these things are happening. But in any case, the bottom line is the whole system is corrupt, and this and that, it's like discussing while a building is crashing down, what color should we paint the balcony? Doesn't matter. Nevertheless, this is how divided the country was. And these protesters would come out in the hundreds of thousands. And when would they protest? On Shabbat specifically, in Tel Aviv. On Shabbat, desecrating the Shabbat, all these things. And this went on for 40 weeks, even the week after Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was the 39th week. What is 40 weeks, ladies? Pregnancy, full term. What's the birth? Boom. Simchas Torah, and we're at war. Congratulations. It's chaos, all these little signs that you see happening right now. Got to pay attention to these things. Okay, anyway, because I just saw 36 and I just remembered. All right, so the fact, again, going back, the fact that the number of the fallen was 36 was a clear sign of this. Just like we need to see clear signs, clear sign of this. And Joshua went and rent his garments and fell on his face to the ground before the ark of the covenant of God and asked for teshuvah. That's what a leader does, right? And although in the Tanakh it is not written the ark of the covenant, but the ark of God, Aron Hashem, as opposed to Aron Brit Hashem, right? Which is what he wrote here. This is to show us that a covenant indeed was broken that brought about this calamity. The ban is the oath. Oath is a covenant, right? They are one and the same. And what happens when we break our oaths to God? Calamity ensues. Again, this is not being insensitive. This is what God said is going to happen. This is what happens. So when this happens, you see, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Every single time. So, okay, let's continue. It's important to note, and we will see this from the writings, what was it appropriate for Joshua to ask God for teshuvah? The answer is no. Okay, interesting. How can you ask God, or anyone for that matter, for forgiveness if you don't even know what it is that you did, right? If someone comes and smacks you or says, I'm so angry with you, what did I do? Please forgive. What did I do? That's a natural thing. What did I do? So this is different from Yom Kippur, not this every Yom Kippur, when we lay a blanket of repentance upon all our deeds. Because today, we don't have a leader in our midst like Joshua who can come before God and ask exactly what happened to repent for the specific matter. That's why Yom Kippur, we beat our chests and we say, for sins that I did with thinking about bad thoughts, for running to do bad things, for stealing, for cheating, for lying, for this or that. Well, I didn't do that. Oh, yes, you did. You did everything in that book. You weren't even aware of the fact that you did it. So we cover everything and we say, and we beat our chests as if we're getting spanked for that which we did. We take responsibility for everything. So again, that's different. That's Yom Kippur. So this is pinpointed. This is a very clear message that God sent Joshua and Israel. And Joshua, being who he was, 36 died, he knew exactly what was up. So what Joshua was seeking, plain and simple, was an answer as to why this happened, like we said, which is also the meaning of the word tshuva. And Joshua came before God to ask for tshuva, to ask for an answer. An answer, tshuva, is she'ela is a question, she'ela, da-da-da, tshuva, da-da-da, right? When you do tshuva, it has the word lashuv. So what does it mean to answer? I am lashuv, ani meshiv lecha. I'm responding to you. So you see the word tshuva has many different meanings, but it's all part of the same thing. So Joshua fell on his face before God. He says, okay, he tore his garments. He knew something happened. He says, what did we do? And God did answer him, says Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, as he said to Joshua, Israel broke the ban, as said in Joshua 7:11. This one is called a consecrated thing, right? Israel has sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. And they have also taken of the consecrated thing, v'gam lakchu min hacherem, and have also stolen and also dissembled, and they have also put into their vessels. Now notice, we know one man did this, and yet Israel has sinned collectively. And they have also taken of the consecrated thing, and they have also stolen, and they have also disassembled, and they have also put into their vessels. In other words, they were sneaky, they put in the vessels, they concealed it. They, Israel, meaning that whoever did these things did so with great cunning and thought. And what's worse, they tried to conceal the matter from Joshua and from Israel and from God. Well, you think God doesn't see? Thereby placing the entire nation of Israel in danger. And something like this simply cannot stand. Do you think God doesn't see when you're doing something that you know you shouldn't be doing? It's right there. He's not sitting up there in a heavenly cloud and looking down, occasionally looking away. He is everything. He's in you. He's around you. He is you. You are in his reality, not vice versa. It's even worse for a person who steals at night than during the day. Did you guys know this? For this individual is showing that he is more concerned about what man thinks than about what God. Oh, I hope that I don't get caught. By who, dude? Seriously. And what does it say in the last verse in Ecclesiastes 12:14? We just read this on the first day of Sukkot. For every deed God will bring to judgment, for every hidden thing, whether good or bad. Everything. So, what did Joshua do? He looked into the 12 stones of the high priest of his vest, the ephod, right? Which represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Got 12 stones. Each stone is a different kind of stone, different colored stone. Each one represents a tribe. Each tribe that kept or upheld the ban or the oath made with God, their stone would light up. Joshua, the stones light up. They're connected to this energy. So when he approached the stones, which, by the way, all stones have power. You've got heard of crystals and all these stones. It's no joke that they actually contain this power. It's used by the high priest, for goodness sakes. Anybody the tribes that upheld it, their stone would light up and it would shine. And the tribe who had the transgression, their stone would stay dark. And it was the tribe of Judah whose stone did not shine. So now they know that it's from the tribe of Judah. Joshua gathered the entire tribe before him, and then they cast lots, and they saw that it was Achan. Okay, and then Achan was captured. So you'll see, and in other places it said that he passed them before the ark. King Saul did the same thing to find out who was guilty. He passed the suspected parties before the Ark of the Covenant, and those that were guilty got caught over there. The ark radiates electromagnetic pulses. Okay, it's radiation essentially. That's why it kills everything around it. That's why if you come close to it, and you are not supposed to come close to it, you die on the spot. You can't touch it. The moment you touch the ark, you're dead. That's why the Levites, they had to put specific, and Levites who are purified, focused, tzaddikim, righteous, clean in every way, shape, and form. And then still they didn't touch the ark. They had to put wooden beams through them and carry them. Okay, so before we continue with the Midrash, let's take a look at Joshua and see exactly what transpired and the seriousness thereof. So, right now we're in Joshua chapter 17, and this is right after Joshua tore his clothes and fell on his face before God. So we're going to read verse 10. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Get up, why do you fall on your face? Israel has sinned," right? We said Israel has sinned. We just read this verse. Israel has sinned. They have transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. Gam avu al briti, the brit, the covenant, the oath, which I commanded them. They have also taken consecrated thing. They have also stolen and also dissembled, and they have also put into their vessels. And the children of Israel shall not be able to stand before their enemies. They will turn their backs before their enemies, because they have become accursed. I will not be with you anymore if you do not destroy the consecrated thing. The cherem mikir bechem, the cherem from among you. God said, right now you guys are vulnerable because of the actions of one man. All of Israel are vulnerable. You see, this is why unity, there's nothing more important in Israel than unity. Nothing more important. Seriously, at the end of the day, God's going to be the one that's judging people. We cannot judge our fellow man. Don't get me wrong. We know what it says in the Torah. We're not in biblical times right now. If we were biblical times, temple standing, and Jews are having a trance party dancing around an idol on drugs during Simchat Torah, that's the death penalty for everybody. But we're not biblical times, and we don't know who gets judged what, when, how, and where, okay? We just know that it is absolutely a sin. This is idolatry, okay, of the highest order. Anyway, God says if you don't remove this from you, you will be accursed. You're done, right? So you got to take this cancer out. This is all because of the actions of one man and later his accomplices, those who knew but said nothing. And this is how you handle this. Verse 13, "Arise and prepare the people and say, prepare yourselves for tomorrow. For thus says the Lord God of Israel, there is an accursed thing in your midst." Meaning, yesh cherem b'kirbecha. What I said, that is a cherem, you now took this and now it's in your midst. That's why I said leave it there. "O Israel, you will not be able to stand before your enemies until you remove the accursed thing from among you. In the morning, therefore, you shall be brought near according to your tribes." Sorry, you know what? Okay. If there's a siren, I'll hear it. So will you. "And it shall be that the tribe which the Lord takes shall come near by families, and the family which the Lord takes shall come near by households, and the households which the Lord takes shall come near by man and by man." This is how we broke it down. Achan, son of this, son of that, son of that, from tribe of Judah. "And it shall be, he that is taken with the accursed thing, V'aya hanilkad b'cherem," he who is trapped with the cherem, with the stuff that was banned, the contraband. Contraband! That should have been the name of the drash. Anyway, okay. "Shall be burned by fire." It's okay. It is what it is. "Shall be burnt with fire, he and all that he has, because he has transgressed the covenant of the Lord, because he has wrought an infamous deed in Israel. Ki asa nevala be'Yisrael." Nevala, you heard the guy Naval, right? Nevela is a carcass. It's also a terrible, terrible disservice. So, what does Joshua do? Exactly what God commanded. And Joshua rose up early in the morning and brought Israel near by their tribes. And the tribe of Judah was taken. Okay. And he brought near the family of Judah, and he took the family of the Zerhites, and he brought the family of the Zerhites near man by man, and Zabdi was taken. And he brought his household near man by man, and Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, the son of from the tribe of Judah, was taken. And Joshua said to Achan, now, this guy is guilty, clearly. And everyone saw it, and everyone knew that 36 tzaddikim died because of him, and he put all of Israel, I want you to notice this, and he put all of Israel in mortal danger of being accursed. You would think if this happened today, people would lynch this guy in the street. Watch how Joshua speaks to him. Why? Because he is still a Jew, literally from the tribe of Judah. And Joshua said to Achan, my son, give, I pray you, glory to God, God of Israel, and make confession to him. And tell me now what you have done. Do not hide anything from me. What's wrong with you? Why did you do this? Don't you see what you did? Okay. Joshua was a true leader, a true man of God. He learned from the best. He learned from Moses, okay? God specifically chose him. Moses, that's the guy. Okay. Vayomer Yoshua el Achan, Beni, my son, simna, please. Simna kavod la Hashem Elohei Yisrael, veten lo todah. Confession, here it says confession, ten lo todah, give him thanks. But also todah comes from vidui, tevadeh, give vidui. And also vidui is confirmation. So let's say when we're in the army and let's say we blow somebody up, you take someone out, put an extra one in him. It's called vidui hariga, confirm the kill. You guys have it as well, right? Okay. Do not hide anything. He spoke to him softly. And Achan answered Joshua and said, indeed I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel, and thus I have done. When I saw among the spoils of goodly Babylonish, because the Hebrew says, Vair'eh bashalal aderet shinar, that's the ancient name of Babylon, right? It says Babylonish garment. And 200 shekels of silver and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight. Then I coveted them, and I took them, and behold, they are hidden in the earth in the midst of my tent, and the silver under it. In other words, here he was trying to cover for his whole family, because they're in my tent. Everybody knows. No, they're hidden in my section, in my room of the tent. Okay. And Joshua sent messengers, and they ran into the tent, and behold, it was hidden in his tent, and the silver under it. So first of all, you see, again, back in the day, the pull for idolatry was so strong. I forgot, who was it? Was it Tzidkiyahu? Yeah, I think it was the King Zedekiah who says, you make fun, but you have no idea if when the pull for idolatry comes for you, you're going to lift up your garments and you would run to go worship idols. So you see, these are different times. So he went where he shouldn't have gone. He gazed for a bit too long, and he coveted that which clearly, after witnessing such a victory, shouldn't have done. All right. And Joshua and all of Israel with him took Achan, the son of Zerah, and the silver, and the garment, and the wedge of gold, and his sons, and his daughters, and his ox, and his ass, and his flock, and his tent, and all that he had. And they brought them up to the valley of Achor. And Joshua said, why have you troubled us? The Lord shall trouble you this day. And all Israel stoned him with stones, and burnt them with fire, after they had stoned them with stones. And they raised over him a great heap of stones, a pillar, to this day. So the Lord turned from the fierceness of his anger. Therefore, the name of that place was called the Valley of Achor to this day. Achor comes from la'akol, to pluck, right? Because they had to pluck out this evil from amongst them. Now we have this. Now we can read our text. So this is what it says in Joshua. We're going back to PDE. And Joshua took Achan and the silver and the splendor and the golden tongue and his sons and his daughters and all that was his, and he disappeared them in the valley of Achor. Now, you might be thinking, well, this seems kind of harsh, right? Why did all his sons and daughters have to suffer as he did? Great question, as our sages brought this up as well. This reminds me, before we continue, this reminds me of Korach. Clearly it was Korach, right? And all the other leaders, the 250 wisest men in Israel who followed him. But it said Korach and all his family and all that was his, the Kol Adato, his entire tribe were taken down. What does his entire tribe do? When you see someone going against God so blatantly and you don't say anything, you are just as guilty as they are. We know that Korach's wife was actually the queen instigator. She's the whisperer in his ear for all these things. In any case, you see, when the majority of people or the leaders of people they're up to no good, you get out of there, which is also why I tell my loved ones or anybody else, don't go to Tel Aviv. Don't go to Tel Aviv. Do not go to Tel Aviv. I'll tell you this also. Before I did tshuva, before throughout my life, after every time I went to Tel Aviv, because I used to work a lot in Tel Aviv. That's right. It's the main place in Israel. Going there, coming out, doesn't matter. I felt like I had to go into mikveh afterwards. I felt dirty. The energy there is disgusting. Anyway. For real, okay? Not everybody, oh, it's beautiful, the building. Sure, yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. Again, it depends how sensitive you are. So, our sages, they brought up this question, but notice how a question is asked. You always have to go to Scripture. Otherwise, it's just an opinion, and no one cares about your opinion. So what does Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer say? It is written in Deuteronomy 24:16, fathers shall not be put to death because of sons, nor shall sons be put to death because fathers, right? Great question, sages. But does it not say da-da-da? So clearly, sons, fathers, people were put together. Each man shall be put to death for his own transgression. Now we see other people being put to death for this one man's transgression. So then, why have these been put to death? For they knew of the matter, and they said nothing. As a rule of thumb, God does not ever punish or overpunish or underpunish, but is perfectly just. It's like, God, why are you doing that way? First of all, if that happened, then it happened. And so if something seems harsh, it is only because we don't understand it. And if you never understand it, you still have to go by faith without being bitter for any reason that God did this, as God is doing everything here now and by you and wherever and forever. God is in control, ein od milvado. He is doing this. Make no mistake, because his plan and his thoughts for us, like we read, are for a blessing and not a curse. So, since his family knew about it and said nothing, they are just as guilty as he. So they were pelted to death with stones and then burnt by fire, according to the word of God. Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer continues. If they were burnt by fire, then why be pelted with stones? And if they were pelted with stones, then why be burnt by fire? Okay, this is very interesting right now. And we have to understand, because we can also see there are specific kinds of transgressions with specific kinds of death penalties for said transgressions. Why? It's not about the physical body. Each transgression has its own punishment. And this is not only a correction, like we said, of the body, but for the nefesh and the ruach and the neshama itself. This is why these things happen. Because once they were killed by stones, right? They're all killed by stones. It's not like they would suffer from the fire. You dig? Right? Makes sense. But it was done to the body that corrects and redeems the nefesh, the life source. This is the nefesh is in our blood, and that is the life source that is connected to the ruach and to the neshama. I'll give you an example. Before Rav Ovadia passed away, Rav Ovadia passed away about 10 years ago. He was the Sephardi rabbi, the head Sephardi rabbi of Israel, the rabbi who I just mentioned who said that thing. He is also the head Sephardi rabbi of Israel. He is Rav Ovadia's son. Okay, Rav Ovadia was a great tzaddik. Incredible tzaddik, okay? Next level tzaddik in our time. Amazing. Before he died, he told his students that during his eulogy, before they walk the body and bury it, he requested that his body be dropped on the ground. You never put a body on the ground, you put a body in the ground, okay? Why? Because it is tremendously disrespectful to just drop or even place a body on the ground, meaning a corpse, right? And any kind of disrespect or humiliation that a person suffers in this world can bring an incredible amount of redemption of the nefesh, of the living, as well of the deceased. Okay? In other words, let's say I go through a public humiliation. It cleanses me, okay? Thereby helping their spiritual ascension along the way. So when a person's body is placed on the ground, again, this is relevant only for Jews. Don't do this. Only for Jews, and not everyone even wants this done. But sure, I'd like to have this done, Place the body. So they placed his body on the floor. They didn't drop it, but they placed his body on the floor. There's another story in the Talmud, I forgot where, and I forgot the name of the rabbi. The rabbi asked his students, I need you guys to throw me on the ground before you bury me, because afterwards it also helps with chibut hakever. I told you that what happens chibut hakever is from the time you die up until the time you're buried, you're being transferred to the courts, but angels of destruction are taking you and transferring you, meaning they're having their way with you. They are torturing you from the time you die up until the time you get to the courts to be judged, right? This helps to lighten your sentence because, oh look, your body has been, flung there or whatnot. Lehavdil. Look at all these corpses. Look, I don't know if you know this, right? But like we said, from that festival, all these individuals who did this desecration, idolatry and whatnot, I'm not saying this easily or lightly, but their bodies, there are hundreds of corpses, along piles of them, just mutilated and thrown on the ground. As hard of a scene as that is, you have no idea what kind of a tikkun it does for those individuals. In fact, I wouldn't even venture to say this is true. This happened in order to redeem them, because death is a redemption within itself, and we're getting to it. Okay? So another example, for instance, of this, if someone hits you, punches you, or humiliates you in the public for the sake of humiliating you, right? At that moment, no joke, at that moment, every single sin you have ever committed goes upon the head of the aggressor, thereby making you a perfect tzaddik. It's like you're a newborn baby. I just heard a story about this happening in the streets of Jerusalem a few years back. This guy is telling this story. He saw a person get punched by another guy in the middle of the street, and he beat him, right? For no good reason. So now, and then the other guy walked away. So this guy was beaten and humiliated. So this Jew comes up to him, this Yid comes up to the other Yid, and he says quickly, I need you to bless me. Put your hands on my head and bless me. He goes, dude, I need you, before he says or does anything, because the moment he has one unkosher thought, one thought of, but I'm going to go get, bless me. What do you want? He asked for a son, okay? So this guy's telling the story. So he blessed him that he should have a son. 9 months later, he had a son. What's the amazing part is that this guy was married for 10 years, and he and his wife tried desperately to have children, and they could not. But the moment this fresh-born tzaddik, who was publicly humiliated, blessed him, God says, done. God listens to tzaddikim. He answers them. I don't want to be the other guy. Who knows what was taken off of him and put on him? You understand? Crazy stuff. And again, he says he went to every Kabbalist and doctor along the way. Nothing helped except this tzaddik putting his hands on his head saying, may God give you a son. 9 months later, son. Amazing stuff. So this is how these things work, okay? So same thing also in the Holocaust. I don't know the cheshbon nefesh of these people, but the way the Jews were murdered and mutilated and ridiculed and disregarded, not only was it a kapara for their body, but also a tikkun for the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, and they go up to the highest levels in Gan Eden. Okay, so this is biblical, this is rabbinical, and this stands forever. These are very real things, my friends. So, why were they pelted? Because they knew of the matter and said nothing. And why were they burned? For the death of the 36 righteous. Okay? And since Achan confessed before the Holy One, blessed be He, Joshua said, Todeh, meaning thank you, and also confess. Since confession, we do this every night. It is important to do this every night. You must understand. This is what it does. And since Achan confessed before the Holy One, blessed be He has a place in the world to come. Amazing. This guy who went against the ban, who put all of Israel in danger of damnation. People died because of what he did. You understand? Negligence, call it whatever it is. Because he confessed, and this is how he was specifically killed, he has a place in the world to come. You take it like a man, you accept God's judgment with love and humility, say thank you, and through death, you will be redeemed. There we go. Through death, you are redeemed. Same thing happened. That's why Zimri and Cosby, what happened in Pinchas? We read at the end of Parshat Balak, and a man from the tribe of Shimon, and a Midianite woman, did the dirty, but Pinchas then came. In the chapter in Parshat Balak, the man from the tribe of Levi from the tribe of Shimon did not have a name, meaning he had no place in the world to come. But because of what Pinchas did, he redeemed him, and therefore we read in Parshat Pinchas that in fact it was Zimri from the tribe of Shimon. Now his name has returned, and he does have a place in the world to come, because through death and lifting him up his body for all to see, through death, through ridicule, through humiliation, it elevates our spirit. Because really, what is humiliated? Our goof, our body, it's fleeting, it's rotting anyway. It means nothing. The true tzaddikim, they don't care if they're humiliated. Thank you. Bring it. You're welcome. Yes. Oh, that one too. Yep. Okay. They take it because they're so disconnected from this world, as we should all be in a sense. As said in verse 25 in Joshua 7, and Joshua said, why have you troubled us? The Lord shall trouble you this day. Meaning this day God is now handling you, right? On this day you are troubled, but not after this day. Only on this day shall you be troubled, my son. Do you see how amazing this is? This is the power of confession. This is the power of coming forth. This is the power of tshuva. This is the power of responsibility. This world is fleeting. We could go at any moment. You understand? If I check the news right now, I'm sure there's going to be another 100 dead, because there's still hundreds, if not thousands, missing. People don't know where anybody is. We don't know what's going on, but that's why we have to do tshuva every day, every moment of every day. And if this doesn't scare people into doing tshuva, hey, I don't know what will. So what do we learn from this? From our story over here? When we as a people make a pact, which means an oath, a vow, a covenant to the Holy One, blessed be He, and even if one of us breaks it, we all suffer. We all fall down. We are fallen as a nation, right? Case in point, only 3,000 sinned in the golden calf. Only 3,000, and they didn't even go bow or worship. 3,000 who listened. The rest didn't. Millions suffered. The golden calf wasn't all Israel playing, woohoo, yeah, go Bulls. No, it wasn't like that at all. Not at all. It was the Erev Rav that came around, and 3,000 from Israel. Here and there, who are like, I want to hear what the thing's got to say, right? and millions suffer as a result? Okay. With 10 spies bad-mouthing Israel, we suffer till this very day. That's Tisha B'Av for you. When we as Israel received the Torah on Mount Sinai, we made a deal. We made a pact, a covenant with the Almighty. We said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do. We will do, and we will listen. In other words, yes, whatever you say, because we see who you are. We understand, we behold, you have opened our eyes. How could this be? Because as our sages taught us, that all of Israel are responsible for one another. This is why when I'm saying these things, chas v'shalom, I'm not condemning anybody, okay? Because I will tell you something else. That may as well have been me 10 years ago. You understand? Although I never really went to, I always respected the holy days. I'd never messed around with that. But on any other day, sure, I would have, yeah. Who hasn't, right? Well, I have. Anyway, I lived that life. So thank God. I went through what I went through. You guys know my story. I did tshuva, right? God opened my eyes and then took me through the ringer only to come out. And now I'm doing this as a result. So I'm not judging anyone. I'm simply saying that God is perfect in every way, shape, and form. And if these individuals who clearly, publicly, on a very, very holy day where God is supposed to be one of these people dancing around Torah, they were dancing with idols and death from above. Again, YouTube, these things, they're online. If the only way to redeem their souls, yes, they are dead. They are not here. Their families mourn and we mourn with them because they are still our brethren. But if they could find redemption in death for their souls for doing this, who would not take that deal? You understand? Because this is fleeting. Souls are eternal. So we are all responsible for one another. We are not the only nation. We are the only nation that gets judged both individually and collectively, whereas the rest of the nations, they get judged individually, as they do not have the surety for one another as we do. You see, one guy Achan did this, all of Israel were on danger of being damned. And so when even one of us sins, thereby breaking their oath to God, we all suffer as a result. Once upon a time, these were few and far between until the ratio grew and became to be more wicked than righteous by far. And whenever that happened, I just want you to know, I wrote this last week. I did not write this week. I finished this last week, okay? Before all these events took place. And whenever that happened, we had war, destruction, exile, persecution, servitude, attempted genocide, all coming upon us because we broke the covenant. Not all of us, it's just enough to tip the scales. Wow, I really did write this last week. So do you see why we need divine intervention today? Because people won't see that. They're not going to see that they were dancing around an idol on a day that they shouldn't have been. Not like it's, okay, well, it's a Monday, so it's okay. No, you see the point. Most of Israel are not going to see that. They're not going to see that. That's the part that makes me sad. Don't you see what God is doing right now? Time's up. We are in it. Why are you not doing tshuva? So again, we cannot tip those scales on our own, not with the current infrastructure in place, not with the government like all the nations and the system of the nations working together with the nations to bring about this. We were called to be separate. We were called to be a light unto the nations. But today, what actually sets us apart? Today, however, until the time of the very end, which is, mind you, again, I can't believe I wrote this, until the time of the very end, which is, mind you, rapidly approaching, it will no longer be so, as God is using pinpoint accuracy on those who are not with him while preserving those who are. This is called the final refinement. In Hebrew, haberur ha'acharon, to see who is where. As our end will be like our beginning, with no more than 20% making it out alive and into the Geulah, through the Geulah. And since this is no small matter, we have more to cover on this topic, which we will do, God willing, Email to Hashem next week. We don't know what's happening here, but as long as I could do this, I will do this. And so, as always, thank you for joining me. I mean, these are crazy times now, people. This is not the time to just be, yeah. I don't know. I really don't know what else to say. I think everything is said. But take care of yourselves. Be safe. Remember, there's nothing that you can do except to pray to God and learn Torah. That's it. That's it, right? Not by power, nor by might, but by my spirit, says the Lord of hosts. That's it. There's nothing else that we can do. If you're doing something else, that means you think that God doesn't have a handle on things, right? That's what it is. If we get angry at someone, it's because we think that God didn't see it. If we knew for a fact that God saw it and that was on purpose, that person came to do this or that to you or whatever, and we know judgment is coming, we wouldn't say a word. But we get angry because we forget that God is everywhere all the time here. Like I said, he doesn't exist in our reality. We exist in his. It would behoove us to remember that. So thank you. And thanks for all the support and the kind messages that you guys are sending. Keep praying for the safety and the peace of Israel. Like I said, if you have any questions, you have my email. Those who have my number, you can send me a WhatsApp. And yeah, we'll keep you posted. Anyway, you guys take care. Be safe. Bye.